Hello, kiddies. Meet the Joker.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? This is Joey Galvez here with another episode of MCDC Podcast. And this is the show where we talk about the big two. This week on the show, we're going to talk about Superman #1. And they're going to be continuing the story from Man of Steel. We got Detective 984, and this is the second part to the Black Lightning arc, right? And the first one was actually pretty good. I liked that one. And then on the Marvel side, we're back to doing our Marvel books, guys. So we're going to do Amazing Spider-Man #1, and he's back to the basics. And then we're going to do X-23 #1. Stay tuned and enjoy. All right, are you guys ready for Superman #1? And we got Brian Michael Bendis on the script, Ivan Reis is on the pencils, Joe Prado on inks, and Alex Sinclair on colors. And these guys have actually been doing a pretty good job with the colors and the artwork and all that good stuff, right? And we still have Brian Michael Bendis on this book here. And like my wife says, we've got Wordy McWord Pants getting his word on. I think I used that little joke there last week too. But you know what? As long as Brian Michael Bendis is on this book and on all these books, I'm probably going to use that a whole lot because he definitely loves his words. So, as a first initial look of this book and feel of this book, I really liked it a whole lot. I did like the kind of the progression and the pacing of this book. So it was actually a little bit more refreshing than the last one. And you know, when we read the first issue of Man of Steel, I think I gave that one a pretty good rating as well. So hopefully in the second one of this issue, we will have a better, because the second one in Man of Steel, I kind of gave it a lower rating than my first one. So hopefully he will do better, convincing me to like this book a little bit more with the second one of Superman. So I really hope that this will be better than Man of Steel, at least in my own opinion, right? But we first, and we get some pretty cool characters here. We see some old villains, and that are usually really hard to take down, and Superman kind of takes them down pretty quickly. So I thought that was a little off, a little weird that, it was so easy for him to take these foes out pretty fast though. So, but we kind of open up here and it's kind of funny. We got a whole lot of words here, and it's kind of just like a little, when you guys watch a TV show and they kind of do a recap. This is what we see here. We see a recap, and I kind of, I think I want to read it word for word for you guys here, because it's kind of funny here. And let's just kind of jump into it here. Rocketed to Earth from the doomed planet Krypton as an infant, Kal-El was adopted by the loving Kent family and raised in America's heartland as Clark Kent. Using his immense solar-fueled powers, he became Superman to defend humankind against all manner of threats while championing truth, justice, and the American way. Recently, a mysterious cosmic warmonger, Rogol Zaar, was revealed to be behind the destruction of Krypton after a brutal battle that destroyed the bottled city of Kandor and the Fortress of Solitude. Supergirl banished Rogol to the Phantom Zone. Meanwhile, Clark's estranged father, Jor-El, came back to Earth to offer his young grandson, John, a trip across the galaxy to help him find his way as a man. Lois agrees to chaperone her son, but during the battle with Rogolzar, the only communication device Clark had to keep in touch with his family was destroyed. Now that battle is over and the villain banished, Clark has only one thing on his mind. I have to find my family. And it says, DC Comics proudly presents Superman, the Unity Saga. So this is, I thought that was kind of funny. In a way, I liked it a whole lot, but at the same time, it was kind of cheesy at the same time. But I get what he was trying to do there, and I did like it a whole lot. And in these next few pages here, these colors are on point. The solar system, it looks pretty stinking cool to me, guys. So, and we get the Dominators here, guys. We got the Dominators in this issue, and I thought it was actually kind of cool here. I did like the way they looked here in some of these, but first we see him kind of taking out some people. He says 746 million miles away, and you can draw a line. And then we see him taking out some aliens and things like that. Looks like they are, let's see, yeah, it's the Dominators there. He says he says, I wouldn't mind a sign or something to keep going after them. And then all of a sudden he comes up on the Dominators, and he says, I wish they would have, he says, I asked for a sign, here we go. For years, the Dominators will wonder how their invasion of Earth was thwarted before they even got near it. So he comes up on this armada, and he just kind of takes them by surprise because he was out there already in space, and he just kind of takes them out there for a second, right? And then we see a kind of like a little flashback between him and Lois here, and they're kind of going back and forth and talking a little bit here, and Lois Lane is talking about, how much do you think Lex Luthor is worth after my expose? He says, I haven't given it a moment's thought. She says, because I got a nagging feeling that somehow he made money off of it. He's like, oh, maybe. And they kind of get cuddly and lovey kind of thing. So, and he's sitting on his bed and kind of thinking back. He's all by himself, and he's thinking back there how like just memories, right? And then you see him kind of thinking, remembering a moment that he had with his son, and about his son talking about how he didn't want to go to school, and he's like, yeah, you definitely got to go to school. He's like, come on, I could just fly around the world a few times and I can know everything just by experiencing it, kind of a thing, and Clark's, what is it? I kid you, I love you, but you're going to school. And he's like, I know. He said, well, what's the real problem? Is it a girl? And he's like, a girl. So, and then he's sitting in that same seat that he was talking to his son, kind of a thing. So that's what we see, this reaction here between him and his son, that he's definitely missing them, right? And then we flip over to the next page here, and they're there surveying the ruins of the Fortress of Solitude, and we got the Justice League, we have Green Lantern, the Flash, and Wonder Woman, and Superman there, just kind of talking about what was going on. And Green Lantern is all, he's at work, and he's like, the Guardians wanted me to make double sure that there were no issues with, and then he gets interrupted a few different times. Flash is like, it's an end of an era. He said, and then Superman jumps in. He's like, we cleaned it all up. He's like, yeah, but the Phantom Zone projector, the samples of kryptonite you stored away. And he's like, the door to dimension, and then gets cut off again. He's like, we got it. He's like, but the Bizarro world energy sources you had cataloged, and then now we get the Flash interrupting him. He's like, how? Let the guy mourn his stuff. And Wonder Woman's like, you will make a new home. He's like, yeah, well, warning New York is expensive. Feels like it's time. And he's like, where would you go? To the moon? and it flashes like to Portland. I thought that was kind of funny because, Clark Kent's kind of a hipster, right? I don't know about that one. So they ask him if he needs help, and he's like, no, stand back. And he does this kind of, like, he kneels down and kind of does this cool thing. It was all right. I think we already seen that in one of the movies, right? And then he kind of flies up. He's like, and it says, and you see these 6 panels, and it says the Bermuda Triangle. So is he like creating a new Fortress of Solitude in the Bermuda Triangle? But this Fortress of Solitude looks pretty wicked there. It looks pretty awesome, though. I am definitely looking forward to seeing how this new Fortress of Solitude will work out for him. So that's happening right now. We are back at the Daily Planet, and he's writing something here, and it says, and you see here. Let's kind of take it back a little bit. You see here a little voiceover here in the pages before. It says Superman has a new Fortress of Solitude formed with Kryptonian crystal technology created light years from the Earth and its yellow sun. The Fortress of Solitude offers Superman a unique place of solace and meditation. It is here that Superman keeps his museum of all Krypton's history, an alien zoo, laboratories, technologies, and rooms dedicated to all sorts of relics, trophies, and his past adventures. So now we see that Clark Kent is kind of writing something here on his computer, and it says it will give Superman a chance to reflect on his heritage and he kind of says to himself, ego, and then he starts hitting delete. And then he picks up a newspaper on his desk, and it says the rash of suspicious fires takes 3 more lives. So that kind of gets his attention, and he's like, what's going on here? He's like, what are you doing? This entire city is stuffed with real news, real stories, and then he kind of, that's where his mind's at. He's back onto this, these fires here, and they keep going, and he still hasn't been able to figure that stuff out. So he gets on the phone and he starts calling the fire deputy Moore, he lets the person on the other end, he's like, oh, could you tell her? And he gets interrupted, and you see somebody here is talking to him. It looks like it's like some kind of mental conversation here, and you see he says, Cal, do you have a moment? I'm outside. And he's like, I'll give you a call back. And he kind of sneaks off, and he kind of tucks into a utility closet, and then he flies out, and you see that he's talking to Martian Manhunter here. And so this is that kind of this interaction here that we see next is kind of an odd one. So when I first read this, I kind of thought that this may not have been Martian Manhunter's voice, and I was like, well, did Brian Michael Bendis kind of lose his voice here a little bit, his idea of John Jones's voice here? So let me kind of read this interaction here, give you guys an idea of what I'm talking about here. So it says, Cal, I heard your recent troubles. The shocking truth behind your home planet's demise, horrible. He says, thank you, John. And he's like, years ago, because we were both the lone survivors of our species, the Flash once referred to us as, I'm sorry, guys, tongue twisters here. The Flash once referred to us, and you and I as cut from the same cloth. I didn't say anything at that time, but I felt there was a great difference. He says, yeah, and then Superman says, yeah, between being the sole survivor of a disaster, he's like, and Martian Manhunter jumps in and says, yes. He says, and being the sole survivor of your people being wiped out by war, but if what I heard is true, if Krypton was destroyed at the hands of another, and Superman kind of is distracted here, and he hears something, he's like, hold that thought. And then you see a blur, and he flies off, and he's somewhere, I don't know, he's fighting this creature. It looks like it could be in another, somewhere around the world. I don't know, is it like some kind of because there's a crazy looking building in the background, and this creature's pretty crazy looking, almost looks prehistoric, some kind of kaiju monster type thing. I don't know. So now he's back with Martian Manhunter here, and he says, "You're saying we each really know how the other feels." He's like, "Yes, I just wanted you to know that you are not alone in this very peculiar pain. That's actually rather lovely of you, John." He says, "Actually, if you could hold that thought," and he kind of goes, and there's another building that's on fire, and he's saving people, dogs, and all kinds of different people running around. There's a lady back there with a baby, so he saves them all, right? And then now he's back with John Jones again, Martian Manhunter. He says, "Sorry about that," and Martian Manhunter jumps in and says, "Can I help you with some of these?" He's like, "This one had fire." He's like, "Oh," because I guess we know that Martian Manhunter has a fear of fire, because that's how his planet was burnt to. Chris, his family got burnt up, and so I guess he's got a fear of fire. So he's like, "Do you happen to know how it could contact a spaceship in deep space without a tethered communicator?" Martian Manhunter now says, "Not without the signal taking years to reach its target." He's like, "Yes." He's like, "I'll look into it." I appreciate that, John. This is nice of you to come here. And he says, "I also wanted to present you with an idea." He says, "Okay, I like ideas." He says, "The world needs you." He says, "Okay, but what does and then he says, "I'm sorry, John. I can't just hold that thought now." And now he goes up into outer space, and there's some astronauts here, and this is one of those things that kind of threw me off here. I was like, this is kind of a different kind of astronaut here. So there's two guys here, and there's a space shuttle here. It's opened up, they're tethered to it, and it looks like one of them is I don't know if Superman is fighting one of them, or one of them's falling, he's rescuing them. I'm not too sure, because one of them looks like a gorilla in a space suit, and it's tethered to this shuttle. So this was kind of odd to me, and I was like, that's kind of weird. Where are they going to go with this? What's going on here? So now we are back with John Jones again. He says, the world needs what? He says, your leadership. You and I have seen, he says, you and I have seen enough to know this world as it is, and beautiful as it is, it does not work. We are, we're going to be part of a galactic conversation soon, and someone is going to have to lead us there. And he says, someone needs to tell this entire world what they have built here with borders and money and war. It's garbage. Someone like you who has seen other better planets needs to tell the world we can be much more than what we are. He says, when we could become a global community, and we could become a galactic community. He says, and I will be there. I will lead you there. He says, me? And then he says, if not you, who? Could it be that the only thing the world needs more than Superman is a Superman who is actively leading the world into its future? And he says, a Superman who is ready to take this great civilization to the stars. He says, and Superman says, lead the world? Martian Manhunter says, take over all of it and set it toward a future in which hope isn't just an ideal, but and then Superman kind of gets this grimacing look, and he's like, take? And he says, offer yourself. Watch what happens. Watch the world rise up. They want you, and he points at Superman's symbol on his chest. He says, they want something different, something more, something hopeful. And he says, I love you, John, but he says, think about it, sit with it. If not you, who? And he says, it was really good to see you. He says, of course, I knew this would be a hard sell. He says, I'll think about it. And then John Jones says, I know the answer. He says, you look good, John. I'll see you at the meeting. And he's left there kind of looking on. Superman here. And this was that part that I was like, whoa, did they just kind of lose John Jones's voice here? Because that to me did not sound like that's the John Jones that I know. But we'll find out why John Jones kind of sounds like a guy who wants to take over the world here in a moment here. So we get him flying around, Superman's flying around, and then we see another flashback, and he's like, I can raise my boy father. And he's like, to do what? To put out fires in his baby clothes? And Superman's just, rushing through the air, flying out. He's like, that's not what I do. And then Superman finally, he hears something, and he's like, why is everything suddenly... He's like, wait, I know this. Because it's almost like he hears something else going on. He's like, and to me in this moment, I was like, okay, there's a lot going on here. This is over... And this is more crazy stuff than usual here. And he's like, so why is everything suddenly... Wait, I know this. This can't be. He says, oh, no. It can't be. And his eyes get all wide. If my wife was here and she saw him with his eyes like this, she'd call him Harley Fart Eyes, because we have a dog who gives these crazy looking eyes when she has thrown a fart and she wants to hide it from us. So he says, no. It can't be. The Phantom Zone. The entire Earth is in the Phantom Zone. And he says, where all of Krypton's most horrible monsters and criminals were banished, the Earth is inside the Phantom Zone. And it says, here next, Rogolzar returns. And we get this really cool page here of all kinds of really cool colors, and we get an insight of what the Phantom Zone kind of looks like, at least this artist's perspective of this moment here, and it kind of looks pretty cool, the colors and the artwork, and then there's the Earth in the background, and Superman flying around taking a look at this stuff. So all in all, in this book, I really liked the artwork all the time. I always say that I like the artwork, but the pacing of this one was a little bit better, and I liked it, and I did like that whole interaction with him and Martian Manhunter. I did at first. I was like, is this really Martian Manhunter's voice? What's going on? And I think it's because we are in the Phantom Zone, and is this affecting Martian Manhunter and he's going a little weird, or is that really him? That's that question that I had. I was like, oh, okay. So is he talking about he wants Superman to take over the world, or what's going on? So that's that one thing that I had an issue with. But other than that, and this book was actually pretty good for the most part. I do like that we saw some of the Dominators, and he kind of took those Dominators out really quick. It was only like 2 or 3 panels that we saw those guys, and it was over with. But I did like that we saw them in there. And, all in all, I think if I was going to give this a rating, I'd probably give it a 7, only because, it was better than the last, for number 1, it's pretty good. 7, I could even push it to a 7.5, closer to an 8. I liked it. I liked it a whole lot more than some of the other issues that I've been seeing from this story, at least. So I am really hoping that we see what's going on here. I want to know where they're going to take this one. If I were to kind of critique this book and the Man of Steel books, the one thing that I would kind of say is I don't know the direction of where this book is going to be taking us. I did, in the Man of Steel, I kind of did have an idea of where they were going to take us, but this one is kind of just like a continuance of that story. I didn't know where they were going to go with this one. What direction are they going to go in this one? So if I was going to say anything, any kind of criticism, that's probably what I would say with this book. So for this book, I'm going to go ahead and, And with this note, I did like everything, all the colors and the artwork and the pacing. There was a lot of words here, but it kind of worked in some of those areas. So for Man of Steel, see, I'm still stuck on Man of Steel there. So for Superman #1, this is my take on it, and this is the book. So our next book is going to be Detective Comics 984, and we're going to see where Batman and Black Lightning leave off. Black Lightning's supposed to be coming to Gotham, and then we'll see what he's going to do there. And we got Karma. We were left off with Karma and Cassandra Cain, and we're going to see if we can pick up where they left off on that book. So let's go ahead and check out Detective Comics 984.
I will help you solve the greatest riddle of all.
Who is Batman?
All right, Detective Comics 984. We got Brian Hill as the writer, Miguel Mondancia on the pencils, and we got Diana Egea, whatever. I am the king of killing people's names, my bad. And we got Adriano Lucas on colors. So this week we've got Karma. Karma's gonna hit us, right? So we got and last issue, we saw, a Batman approached Black Lightning to come and help him out, teach some of his. I guess I'm sure that he's going to teach all the Robins, and you got Cassandra Cain there, and then you've got the Spoiler, and he wants him to come help him out and teach him and kind of take them under his wing a little bit there and see what he can do, since he is a teacher of young people in a impoverished neighborhood who, and the only thing you could do in impoverished neighborhoods like that is get into trouble and join gangs and survival, right? So survive. That's the key in those kind of neighborhoods, right? So he's gonna be coming to Gotham here, and he's not the only one coming to Gotham. So this one's called Karma Comes to Gotham, and we open up the pages here, and we see, we're back in Markovia here, and there's a woman here, and somebody's kind of doing a deal here, and they're talking about, there's no refunds, this is pretty crazy. I don't know what and you see that this person's trying to buy a helmet from this lady, right? It says, I don't know the origin of this equipment. Some say alien, but I just sell it. And I'm not this, and just like anybody else talking and doing a Russian dialogue, they always have to have that broken English thing going on, which is kind of horrible, right? Anyway, I've always had a pet peeve with that kind of thing, people kind of writing that in a comic book. I thought it just didn't read very well when I read this part. So it says, it may kill you. I give you a warning, but if it kills you, then that's what you deserve. Or this guy says, if it kills me, then that's what I deserve. And she says, okay, well, what do you want it for? You want it to make money, to make an army, to try to kill Superman? And he's like, I just want to bring justice to the world. And you see that it's the helmet that this guy Karma was wearing in the last issue. And then we're back where we left off in the issue when he confronted Cassandra Cain here, and they're fighting here. She's running away from him. He's jumping off of cars and stuff like that, and he's shooting her with this kind of, I don't know if it's bullets. It kind of looks like blasters, but then in the next page, he's got it's a regular looking gun here. So he's shooting at her, and she comes back at him, and she kicks the gun out of his hand. She drop kicks him a couple times. And he's like, yes, Cassandra Cain, your thoughts are beautiful. And hold on, let me go back here, because this was a key thing here. Let me see if I can see it. So it says, I've heard the mask can read thoughts. And so we get this kind of insight that this mask, whatever it is, it helps you read thoughts. And that's why I guess we heard in the last issue that he knew Batman's name. He knew that Batman was Bruce Wayne, and he knows that who all these other, Bat family members are. So that's why he says here, Cassandra Cain, your thoughts are beautiful. Pure violence, not like the yellow boy. He was so confused, but you're not confused. You're just afraid of yourself. Did Batman put that fear into you? Another one of his failures. And this guy, and he says, I'm the karma that has come for him. Bring your anger to me, Cassandra. Set yourself free. And then we flip the page here again, and I want to say that artwork in that on those pages there, they were actually pretty cool, and I liked it. I didn't get really confused. Some of those pages where you see kind of things happening in the action pages, you get a little confused sometimes, but I didn't get confused on this one. So here we flip the page and we see that Jefferson, Black Lightning, is showing up here in Gotham. He's getting off the plane. And he's like, welcome to Gotham, because he sees Batman standing there all brooding in all his darkness, right? He's like, so Batman says, you made the right choice, Jefferson. And Jefferson says, you really think you gave me a choice, Batman? And he said, Bruce Wayne must owe you a hell of a favor, excuse my language, heck of a favor to give you his plane. And he says, he owes me his life. So he says, so here I am, what do you want? And then we see, they're kind of talking back and forth here. He's like, you get handed a group of students who have personal issues equal to their talents. Working together, they can be formidable, but they're always at risk of tearing themselves apart. What do? He says, you find out what they have in common and build structure from there. You're patient with your conflicts, but you're patient with their conflicts, but you don't let them fail themselves. And whatever battle they have to fight, you make dang sure you're fighting alongside them. He says, I have some people I need you to meet. Tell me what they have in common. Then tell me. When I was sitting here, I was like, well, that is Batman, to not know what these people are having in common, to not even have time to sit back and to get to know these people, to get to know anybody in the Bat family, and to find out what they all have in common, and kind of bring the team together, kind of thing. He says, then tell me how you can make them better. So this kind of made me think, is he just bringing Black Lightning in here to kind of do his job for him so that he doesn't have to? Is that lazy or is that smart? I don't know. And he says, you know it wouldn't kill you to say please. Superman says please. Wonder Woman says please. And Batman turns and he grabs, he's like, awkward conversation, grabs his earpiece. I don't know if he was like, this is when I first read this, I was like, all right, is he just like joking here? Did he really hear somebody talk to him in his earpiece or what? So he says, understood, on my way. Call Gordon and tell him not to bring in GCPD. They'll only make this harder. And Black Lightning says, Batman, what's going on? Batman starts running towards a hangar, and he's like, the meeting just got moved up. Follow me. And then Jefferson says, follow you where? Where are we going to go, for a walk? And Batman's, and this is kind of cool, the old school Batmobile shows up here, pops up, and this Batmobile reminds me of the Tim Burton Batman movie. And so this one, I love this, because that was one of my favorite Batmobiles, and this is what shows up here. It's pretty cool. He says, I'll drive. He says, change on the way. He's like, change? He's like, oh, okay, got it. So now we're back, and so we got Karma and Cassandra. They're still fighting here, and Karma's like, the signal, so many Robins, all useless, but you deserve more than he gives you. And she says, who are you? He says, I am justice and clarity that pain provides. And he grabs her arm and he snaps her arm. I don't know if he snaps it out of place or he breaks her arm or what. We'll see here in a little bit. And he says, and he kicks her up against the pole. And he says, listen, Cassandra, daughter of Shiva and Cain, take my hand. We can help Batman together. You're better than him, than all of them. And she says, no. And then she kicks this dude and starts fighting. And then he's like, fine, have it your way. And he gets away. And he grabs something at his side, and you see that it's this kind of looking dagger. And And he says, remember, if you die, it's what you deserved. And then he she's on the floor. He's about to go, I guess kill her or whatever here. And you see behind him here, he gets zapped, and you see Black Lightning zapping him with his powers there. Black Lightning, I guess he thinks that he's done and he's got him already. He's subdued him, because he turns around and grabs an orphan. He's like, yeah, I hear you're orphan. And then she says Black Lightning. He says, hey, you might want to take it easy on that. And she pops her arm back into place. So he didn't really break it. He just pulled it out of socket. He says, or not. He says, Batman sent me. He wanted me to. And then Black Lightning gets a car door thrown at him. Like, so this is the thing. I didn't know that this guy, is the helmet making this guy like give him super strength, or is he just strong enough to pull a car door off of a car and just throw it at somebody? Just, is he that strong? Does he have superpowers? This was really weird that I saw out of nowhere. I saw a car door, or maybe here, I guess it kind of looks like he used his powers back at him, but that kind of wasn't clear to me in this moment. I didn't know if he was grabbing the door, or if he was, because now looking at it for the second and third time, or fourth, fifth, how many times I've read this, I still didn't get it until just now, because all you see is one little lightning bolt there, and it's very easily overlooked there. So I guess he used, and this is what he says here in the next scene. Look at all that power you've given me, Lightning, and I didn't even have to ask for it. So does this mask absorb people's powers, or their strength, or the something, whatever they give him? Does he absorb it and give it back? So that's another thing that they didn't really make very clear here yet. Hopefully they will in the next few ones here. And he says that's not possible. And Black Lightning creates a some kind of lightning bubble around. He's like, get behind me. And before he could do anything like that, this guy Karma, uses some other kind of power, and he says, you're thinking, what kind of grenade is that? I tell you it's a sonic pulse, but I don't think you can hear me. So he threw a grenade at him, but it looks like he's using the lightning power as well. So very weird. He says, now about this power of yours, Lightning, as much as I appreciate the gift, maybe I'll just give it away. And he uses it against him. You see Cassandra here, and she's kind of smirking a little bit. and then it goes back over to this guy's mask, a close up on his mask, and it looks like the mask is kind of smirking. Weird, but okay. And then he says, to the one you think you could save. And then you see the next page here, and Batman, I guess, was falling or jumping on him or from the above, and this guy uses the powers against Batman here. So, and that was kind of confusing in that moment there, guys. Like, what was going on? Because you can see just a little shadow of Batman in the background, but again, that's very, very easily overlooked again. And this happens quite a few times here. That you got to read it over and over and over again, and you got to look at the panels there to see this kind of stuff, and they're very easily overlooked. So Batman was coming down at him, and then he uses this power against him. But so Batman gets thrown through a window with this power that he absorbed from Black Lightning, and he says, your minds exhaust me, your thoughts most of all, Bruce. So strange of all the things remember that night, you choose pearls. So I guess that's just an ongoing thought in Batman's mind about his mother and father's death. So Cassandra starts running off after this guy says, and Black Lightning tells Cassandra, no, not without Batman. This guy's hovering over a almost broken sewer drain and our sewer manhole, and he like hits it, cracks it open, and he says, gather your rage, girl, then find me. And he falls right through, and she misses him. He says, I won't be far. So they go back. Black Lightning goes back and grabs Batman, and Cassandra runs off with him. And he says, Batman, you need help. What do I do? And Batman says, call Alfred. Sure, okay. And he says, who's Alfred? The next page, now we see they are all at the Wayne Manor. And now he knows that now if Black Lightning did not know who Batman was, he does now. He knows that he's Bruce Wayne because he says, Alfred comes in asking him if he wants some breakfast. He says, Bruce Wayne, I can't believe it. I thought Wayne dated supermodels and crashed Ferraris. And Alfred says, Bruce Wayne does. May I suggest you not let the brew get cold, Mr. Pierce? So this is that thing, we always see this kind of thing happening, right? The persona thing between Batman and Bruce Wayne, that's okay. That's an ongoing thing. So now he says they were all kids, Alfred. He brought kids into this. So, he's pretty upset now because he helps kids get out of this kind of situation. And this is what he tells Alfred here. He said, I why do you bring me here? I spent my entire life protecting children from the same thing he throws them into. Alfred says perhaps he believes that he made choices you never could have. Perhaps your judgment it's your judgment that he seeks. So obviously, this is that moment that we see. Of course, it's his judgment he seeks. He went all the way out to Metropolis to grab this guy, and explain to him, I've got some kids here that have problems equal to their talents. What do you do? What can I do? So obviously, come on, is this? And we saw in the first book there, Jefferson Pierce here was interviewing somebody for a job at his school. And is this kind of that same thing? Do we see this mirror image of Batman doing an interview with him on what he can do and how he needs him to use his talents here with these guys, with these members of the Bat family? Okay, cool, but is that predictable? Is that genius that we've seen this in this kind of book? So now he says, Master Bruce would like to see you upstairs when you're able. And, he comes into Bruce Wayne's room, and he says, oh, is this a bad time? I can come back. And he says, no, close the door. And if you're wondering how it feels to get hit by your power, it's unpleasant. Okay. And he says, please isn't a word I often use, but I will thank you. Cassandra would have died if you hadn't been there. And he says, Bruce, I don't even know what to call you. Look, I'll keep the secret. But before we go any further, I can't condone any of this. Those kids downstairs, they need therapy, not costumes. I'm an educator. None of this makes any sense to me. And Batman says, you're right. It's clear our tourist in Gotham will use all of them to hurt me. That can't happen. I will uncover Karma's identity, and I will stop him. Until then, all of them stand down, and they will follow your lead however you choose to lead them. And then he says, Duke Thomas won't want any father figure in his life. Prepare for that. He respects me too much to challenge me, so he'll aim his anger at you. Cassandra Cain will hide her emotion from you, but I assure you there's plenty under her silence there. He says she doesn't speak often. When she does, I urge you to listen. And it says Barbara Gordon became protective of Cassandra. She'll want to be involved. She'll challenge you. Challenge her back. So, okay, if he knows this kind of stuff about them, why doesn't he know the common, what they all have in common? If he has all this stuff, it's just, if Batman is a detective, and obviously this is Detective Comics, so why isn't he got this big file on them, showing their talents, showcasing everything that he knows about them, showcasing, what he's gathered that they all have in common, because that's what detectives do. I mean, I've seen tons of movies. Even in the movies, they show that kind of stuff. but he's got to bring somebody else in here to do that kind of stuff. Does that show that he is disconnected from them? That he's doing it on purpose? There's a purpose. He's doing this. He's disconnected from them. Is that on purpose, or is it is it just him not wanting to do it, or what's going on here? That's one thing that I wanted to know here. So he's like, Bruce, the only thing they want is to help you stop this man. They won't listen to me. You're going to have to tell them something. He's like, tell them I'm sorry, but they make me weaker. I thought that was a little weird, because this is what this karma guy has been telling all these members of the Bat family, that you make him weaker, and for Batman to sit here and say, okay, they're making me weaker. Is he giving into what this guy wants? This is exactly what this guy wants. He wants this guy, and this guy wants to create this kind of chaos in the Bat family. He wants to get into Batman's mind and help him, tear him apart mentally, so that he is not able to do his job physically. And so, okay, we're human, we do that a lot, but isn't this the same game that we've seen other villains, come in here and use this tactic towards Batman? Shouldn't he already know this kind of game already? He's been at this for how many years now, and he's not getting this kind of stuff. He doesn't understand that this is what's happening. So, cool. But all in all, this book was actually pretty good. I liked it. The pacing was great. I am interested in to find out who this karma guy is, and what he's about, and why he's so adamant about getting Batman, and he says that he's helping Batman. He wants to help him. What's he trying to help him do? I want to find out. I'm definitely interested to continue reading this book and to find out what's going on with this karma guy. I do like this idea. There is some points here that is a little bit off here and there, but it really didn't hang me up, and it didn't lower my scores or anything like that. But I did like it. I like the artwork always. The pacing was great. The writing wasn't too bad. It wasn't horrible like some of the books we've seen lately. But all in all, this was an actually okay book, and I would I would definitely continue buying it if it were up to me. So I'm going to give this one a 6.5 to a 7. That's solely because some of those areas I'm questioning, and it's just because I'm questioning and I want a little bit more. Now, if I wasn't doing that, I'd probably jump it up to an 8. If I wasn't wanting a little bit more from this book here. So hopefully they'll give me more answers in the third arc of this story here, and we'll see what happens with that. So this is going to be my review of Detective Comics 984. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope I didn't stutter too much. Anyway, so let's see. We've got our Marvel books next. You guys up for Marvel books? Sorry I haven't been able to talk about any Marvel books lately, but we had a couple of weeks where we did some really cool special episodes. And so this week we're going to have our Marvel books back. And, stay tuned. We're going to have Amazing Spider-Man #1, and then we're going to have X-23 #1. Those two were actually really good books. I liked them a lot. Spider-Man was a little long. There was a really cool epilogue story kind of thing, but, and it kind of tied into the story before it. So I liked it, but it was a little long, and I found myself kind of sitting there flipping through the pages and wondering when this was going to be over. But it is a Spider-Man book, and that's what I love. I love Spider-Man books. X-23 was awesome. I liked it a lot, too. And I am interested to see where these two books are going to be going as well. Stay tuned. Let's check out our Marvel books here next and enjoy these next books here, guys.
Spider-Man, Spider-Man does whatever a spider can. Spins a web any size, catches thieves just like flies. Look out! Here comes a Spiderman. Is he strong? Listen, buddy. He's got radioactive blood.
All right, we got Spider-Man #1. It's called Back to Basics Part 1. And we've got Nick Spencer as the writer, Ryan Ottley as the penciler, Cliff Ratburn as the inker, and Laura Martin as the colorist. So on this one, we get kind of a cool, back to basics. And that's a perfect word for it, perfect phrase for it, I guess, because, in the past we saw that we had Otto Octavius. He took over Spider-Man's body there, and he started a company for Peter Parker, and he finished school for him and all that kind of stuff. And this is kind of, it doesn't really pick up there, but it does reference that kind of stuff and what had happened there. But let's kind of jump right into this. I do want to say that overall this book was actually pretty good. The pacing was pretty good, and it was an actually pretty good book. I liked it a lot. But the one thing that I did have, that if there was any kind of downfall to this book, I think it would probably be that it was really, really long. There was like something about like 40 something pages. It was really long and really hard to get through. There was even a long epilogue story. But for the most part, it was an actually pretty cool story, and I am actually interested in following this book from here on out, and I'm wondering where they're going to kind of go with this. So we open up the book here, and I'm just going to kind of do a Reader's Digest, kind of run through this because it was so long. I'm just going to give you guys a quick, kind of page by page, not too much of a page by page, but kind of like just kind of get through it kind of a thing. So we open up the book here, and I thought it was kind of cool because we see Peter Parker, and he's got MJ, and it looks like they are on a rooftop somewhere, and he's got her eyes closed, and he's in he's in the black suit here, guys. So that's what kind of threw me off here. I was like, if we're back to the basics, he's in his black suit. What's going on? This is kind of cool. He's in this symbiote suit. Okay, let's see where this comes from, right? But then it just happens to be a dream, and he wakes up, and Peter Parker has roommates, right? He's got one roommate and we always have, I guess, if there was any of us out there who actually ever had roommates, there was always that one guy that was always like super loud and obnoxious and always getting into the food kind of thing, and never putting food back, and always, killing out the food before anybody else can get to it. So this is kind of what we see here. He's with some friends here. One guy is actually the son of his boss at the Daily Bugle, and then there's another guy who we later on find out is actually a villain, and he calls himself Boomerang here. I'm not sure if this is so. We always get this kind of thing where DC and Marvel kind of talk about they kind of have the same names for different characters, and like we get a Boomerang here, we got Boomerang in the DC universe too. So but this guy's a little different here. So he which is kind of weird that he's got a villain as his roommate, and he kind of talks about how and why he became his roommate, and because he thinks that he's got something under his sleeve, so he wants to kind of keep him a little bit closer. Because even the Kingpin doesn't know, the Kingpin was interested in what he's got. So, and then we see these kind of like, we flip the page a few different times here, and we see these kind of creatures, or I don't know exactly what they are, because you can't really see, because they're all like, they're just some weird creature like things with green blood and guts, I guess you want to say, and you see Captain America there, and they're fighting these creatures. You see Captain America, Iron Man, Fantastic Four, She-Hulk. You've even got the X-Men there, Thor, the Avengers, and so this is kind of cool here. We even see Gambit there, which is actually kind of cool. So and Old Man Wolverine there. Tons of fun characters, right? So they're all fighting, and they even bring in the Guardians of the Galaxy here a little bit, which is kind of cool. And they're all trying to wonder what's going on, where they've seen these creatures, and if they're alien type creatures, and what's going on. So they kind of they're fighting through them, but then they get a little subdued. And you even see Jessica Jones and Iron Fist and stuff like that here, and but then we see Spider-Man. He kind of comes in here, and he like, I'm gonna and of course Spider-Man's gonna throw his jokes out there, right? And he uses a joke that he used prior to that, and he's like, yo, that joke's gonna kill. It killed last time, and why doesn't it kill here? So we see this kind of thing. Now we go back to Wilson Fisk, the Kingpin here. And I guess the Kingpin somehow has become the mayor of New York City. So I don't know how he pulled this one off. I don't even think Spider-Man knows how he pulled this one off. And he kind of talks about that there a little bit. How he became that. He's, and so anyway, we see that Wilson Fisk here, he's kind of tricks Spider-Man into, trying to take some guys out that were trying to like get into a vault of some sort. But I guess Wilson Fisk was behind it all. He set these guys up also that Spider-Man could be given the key to the city. So he's trying to get the public to he's trying to sway the public and help make them believe that he's a good person, right? But we all know what kind of person he is. And he kind of shows his true colors here at the end of it a little bit, because him and his head guy there, they're talking about how they're going to squash the wall crawler, and they're going to, do that kind of stuff there. Now we're back again after he thinks because this is kind of like a flashback kind of thing, and now we're back here with the X-Men and the Avengers and the Guardians and all those good stuff, right? All those cool characters. And Spider-Man's trying to fight these things with them, and he's trying to figure out a way to get through these creatures, right? So now we see again, I don't know if this is a flashback or if this is actually happening. I think it's actually happening here. So now we see that he is he's working in the Daily Bugle, and they've got some cool news show going on now, and they have a lady who comes on, and he says, oh, I know that lady, she went to school with me. I wonder, this has got to be good, so I wonder what's going to happen here. And she comes up, and she's introducing a new kind of technology called Watcher, and it is a technology that takes because they talk about how people are plagiarizing their theses and their papers and stuff to graduate, and they're taking these types of the types of ways that they're cheating nowadays is completely different. And he says and let's kind of read this here. She says, like Amanda Clarksdale here, who used a trans-dimensional doorway to find an alternate reality version of herself that happened to be a genius and a genius grant recipient. Or Michael Prescott, who bribed a hidden cell of Skrull refugees to help him falsify control results in a paper that was published in 3 separate academic journals. Or perhaps the saddest story of them all, the late Ricky London, who sold his soul to the Dark Lord Mephisto in exchange for passing the LSAT score. So they're like, oh, well, there's a next level of cheating here, plagiarism here. So we need to figure out some way to catch these people in the act, kind of a thing. So they have this thing that it looks up the papers, and then it kind of has a database of where they've seen this kind of thing before. And she says, okay, well, we've got somebody here who went to the university. Let's go ahead and bring them up. And they bring up Peter Parker, and she says, oh, we've got a paper here that he had done before, and he's kind of being cocky. He's like, ooh, yeah, they're gonna talk about me, they're gonna check out my paper. I wonder what paper they're gonna bring up. I've did a whole lot of cool papers. I did great, because he So because everybody here they're all on his side, they're all happy, they're all giving him the perks of the job and things like that. So he's kind of the head honcho kind of guy right now because he's doing very well. So now they check out his paper and it says that it was fraudulent. And I guess it was the paper that when Dr. Otto Octavius, when he took over Peter Parker's body, he wrote a paper and he went to school and he finished school for Peter Parker. And that's the paper that they pulled up. And that says here, fraudulent. And now it says 100% confirmed. Real author, Dr. Otto Octavius. And he's like, whoa, I can explain. This is not really what happened. And he can't really explain because he can't explain it without telling people that he is Spider-Man, right? So now this kind of, this all these dominoes are toppling over now for him because now he gets fired because of this. And then, now he goes and talks to MJ and she's just kind of laughing. She's like, so this paper, Octavius wrote this and you can't really say anything about it. And she's just kind of laughing a little bit. And then she's kind of sad about it at the same time because, his whole life is falling apart. Then we see a news report here. And if this thing did not get any worse, they pull up, it says now his former employees are going public with allegations that he claimed credit for their inventions. So now we got somebody here saying that he's claiming credit for the inventions that they have done, and they're gonna be seeing him in court, kind of a thing. So he's like, oh great, this just keeps getting worse. And then she says, oh well, how did Aunt May take it? And he's like, oh crap, Aunt May. So now he goes home and he kind of like he sees the newspaper on the ground there. He grabs it, kind of hides it from her. And she's like, oh, hey, how's it going? How you doing? Blah, blah, blah. And then she says, well, I got this on my phone. I got this alert on my phone. What's going on? And I guess I get the idea that Aunt May still does not know that he's Spider-Man. After all this stuff that's happened, she still doesn't know that he's Spider-Man. So she shows that she's kind of disappointed in him because she believes that this actually happened, that he actually plagiarized one of his papers, and it's one of the papers that actually helped him to graduate and to boost him to where his status is now, and so she's kind of disappointed, and she's you won't even take responsibility for it because he explains to her, it's complicated. I can explain this to you, but it wasn't exactly how it happened. That's not exactly how it went down. So now we are back with these creatures again, and they're actually starting to take over, and because there's so many of them, and they're starting to the superheroes are actually starting to lose, and Spider-Man's kind of trying to figure out a way to get out of this, and then he finally thinks of something here, and he's like, wait, that's it. There's a pattern to these portal openings because I guess there's portals, and these things just keep coming at him, and he's like, it's not all random. They're all interconnected, and if I can formulate which one is at the center of it, I might be able to shut it down. So he starts to go for it. And as he goes for it, he's like, thinking about, okay, this is my last day on Earth. I want everyone to know that I'm saving the world, and he kind of wants to, redeem himself with this one last act, and he wants to remember that this was all worth it. And then as he's thinking about this, boom, he hits some glass, and you see, one of the funniest characters that he's doing, and it's Mysterio, right? And I always thought Mysterio of being a little bit different, and I have to admit with you guys, I don't really follow as Marvel books as much as I do the DC books, and even though I do like Spider-Man, I really have lost touch with Spider-Man and what's going on with there. But Mysterio has to be the funniest villain because he's always messing up, and he's this like actor, and this is, you know, everything that he does is like is movie tricks and kind of things. So this is what we see here, right? So he kind of takes him, and he's always this kind of like this sad villain. He's like, oh no, don't, sorry, kind of thing, right? So now, you know, Spider-Man finds out that Mysterio was behind all this, and he was actually creating these creatures and making it look as if these creatures were coming from portals, but it actually wasn't. It was some kind of movie magic kind of stuff. So, you know, now we are back with MJ, and he's, you know, talking to her, and, you know, they do their little lovey-dovey thing, and then that's it, right? He's like, well, you know, and let me kind of read this to you guys, because this is let's read this. It says, I finally know what I have to do. I almost died tonight, and yeah, I get it. That happens a lot, but this felt different. This felt completely different. We tell ourselves stories to get through the hard times, and the truth is, I'm being honest, nothing has felt right for a long time, and I think I know why. He says, and yes, how we tell them matters. We've been through so much together, survived so much together, and I know that on my end, at least, if you hadn't been there, I wouldn't have survived. And he says, because, yeah, I can do a lot of things, swing from buildings, climb walls, all that good stuff, but to do this and to do it right, I need you. I wish I had all the answers. I wish I knew how to make everything better and safer and easier, simpler even, but I just can't do it anymore. I just can't anymore. And he says, maybe this is a mistake. I'm sorry. This isn't fair to you. Maybe I should. And then MJ says, whoa, easy, Tiger. And she just kisses him. She says, we're together in this, Pete. We've always been. And then that's it right there. That's the last page here. And then we have this very long epilogue. And let me tell you guys, this is already page 30, 31, 32. And we still got, let's see how many more pages we have. We have until about 44, 45. So we got that. There's a lot more pages here, right? All right, so we get this really cool kind of insight to who Mysterio was. Okay, it says, I began at a young age my life of film of stories. That afternoon, as a young Quentin Beck, watched a mermaid and Tom Hanks find true love, I realized my calling. Like, for real, is Splash really that moment that propelled his life? I'm just saying, guys. So I'm sorry that I really know the name of that movie. I shouldn't. Just saying. So he says, I realized I had a destiny, and so I wrote. And boy, did I write. I wrote, crafting a tale of the ages, an epic so grand it would immortalize me. He said, but in the meantime, I toiled. I worked on set after set after set. However, I was needing in special effects and stunts and costuming, and all in search of my chance to have the opportunity to get my precious script in front of the right person. But when that time came, they rejected me. And he goes on and kind of about this kind of stuff. And this is who he is. He says, I, Mysterio. And then you hear bang, 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 Mr. Beck. And he's in court talking about this. And the judge here, he's banging his gavel. And he says, I understand that you've elected to represent yourself despite the court's strenuous advice to the contrary. He says, that's right. Mysterio does not take notes. So he's representing himself in court, and he's just going on with this stuff. And the judge is at one of this moment. He's all but telling you that this is gonna be your opening statement. He's like monologue. So just saying. And then he kind of goes on, and he's like, I'm gonna do this. This is what I'm gonna do. And somebody walks in here and says, my client pleads not guilty by reason of insanity. And Mysterio's like, oh, this woman, I know her. She's no mere attorney. She's the insufferable beetle daughter of mobster Tombstone and former member of the Sinister Six Imposters. So she's going to represent him, right? So anyway, now she's kind of talking here, and she's about to give her statements here. And then all of a sudden she's like, oh, sorry, and it looks like she's about to puke here. And then she gets kind of sick, and all kinds of like worms come out of her mouth. And then the judge starts getting sick, and you see rats kind of climbing up on him. And then the entire courtroom, changes, and it looks like it's in some kind of I don't know if it's a cave or what, but then everybody around Mysterio starts going crazy, and it looks like they're shooting their guns, and people are dying around him, and they're getting sick, and there's cockroaches and bugs crawling all over the place, all over him. And he's freaking out, and he's trying to get out of there. Somebody's calling to him, and he says, Quentin, you're being chased by the thing that catches us all. And some crazy looking guy here comes, and he's kind of talking to him, and he's like, look at how sad she is, Quentin, and he's talking about his attorney there, and he's like, there's you get one last chance. So I guess this guy kind of put him up to this stuff, and he's, give me one last chance, I'll get it right. And he's like, I won't be. So he's doing this, but then you flip a couple pages, and everybody's you're back in the courtroom, and he's like, no. And you see everybody just standing there looking at him all weird and crazy. And his attorney says, I apologize, Your Honor. As you can see, my client's faculties are not sound. So this is like perfect for her, her stance here that he's insane, right? So now we are back at the Empire State University, and that same woman that was in charge of that new technology, right? She's talking to Peter Parker here, and she's kind of walking around, and he's kind of talking to her. He's like, oh, sorry kind of thing. And she's like, we went in front of the board, and they were talking, and we kind of came up with something. And as they're walking, she's like handing him stuff, and he's like, well, what's this? And she hands him some books. He's like, what is this? And she says, as I said, our review board was clear in its recommendations until we heard an impassioned defense of you from an esteemed member of our faculty. He was downright insistent you'd be given another chance, and he could be a very difficult man to say. And it says, there he is, class. Peter Parker, have a seat. And it is it is the lizard guy. I forget his name. I'm horrible with this. See, it's been a very long time since I've read a Spider-Man book, guys. Just saying, sorry. Dr. Connors, I think his name is Dr. Connors. And the man who turned into the lizard, right? So, anyway, he is there, and he's teaching a class, and it says to be continued. That's the book, right? It says next issue, and we see a cool picture of Dr. Connors there in his lizard form, and Spider-Man in his Spider-Man suit, and they're gonna fight there. So 46 pages long. It was pretty good story. The pacing was actually pretty good for that long of a story. It was actually pretty good. I really hope that they kind of shorten it down a little bit, because then if the next issue is another 40 something pages, then that's just going to be a really hard one to get through. But all in all, it was great. Artwork was cool. I mean, this type of stuff, this Spider-Man stuff was a little bit, I mean, sometimes I look at it and it's a little too kiddie for me, but I do like it. It's pretty good. I'm not gonna say it's horrible, but it was alright. So, but there wasn't. I don't think I had too many problems with the dialogue. I think the only thing that I had the problems with was that it was just such a long book, and it took a little while to get through. So, all in all, I think I would give this a 7 out of 10, just because it was a long book, and it just really hard for me to read that many pages in one sitting, kind of a thing. But the story was pretty good. Most of it was all like, thought bubbles and not word bubbles, but whatever. It was pretty cool. I liked it. It was good all in all. I am liking that they're going back to the basics on this one, so that is going to be my Amazing Spider-Man #1 review. Next one, we're going to have X-23, and that one was actually pretty good. We'll get into that one here and next.
Bye, Felicia.
That's why I'm here. An operative, X-23, was sent to infiltrate this facility, but then went rogue on us.
So?
Trust me, this is cause for concern.
Why work for the bad guys?
No boundaries. They gave me the chance to push genetics beyond anything conventional science had ever seen, beyond what any government allowed. My job there was to create a weapon, the perfect weapon.
X-23, #1 here. So this one was actually really good, guys. I want to express how much I liked this one. This one was one of my favorites of the week. So we've got writer Markiko Tamaki, artist Juan Cabal, and colorist Nolan Woodard. This one was actually a really good one. Let me kind of jump in here, guys. They give you guys a little bit of a intro here, so let me just go ahead and read it to you guys. Cloned from Wolverine, Laura Kinney began her life as a weapon called X-23. After she escaped those who crafted her, she located another clone, Gabby. Together, the sisters began to fight for a better future as the all-new Wolverine and Honey Badger. But to move forward, you have to face what's behind you. That's awesome. I liked this issue a whole lot. So we kind of get some pretty cool background here about, this stuff. So we kind of open up the book here, and I don't know if I've expressed to you guys how much that I dislike those multiple panel pages, but this one actually was okay, and it wasn't really a horrible one to me, because we got 3, 6, 9, it's like 15, 16 panels here, but they're all little squares, and it's kind of it kind of works though, because they kind of give us a little bit of a background of who these people were who crafted her a little bit, right? I'm not gonna go through this word for word and read a whole lot of this stuff. I'm just gonna talk about it a little bit for you guys, and give you guys my Reader's Digest of this book here. So, but it was really, really good though. We open up the pages here with, we see X-23 and Honey Badger. Kind of, they're falling out of a building or off of a building here towards some, like, with some guys that they're fighting. They're shooting at them, and they're just like, fighting these guys as they're falling out of this building. Pretty cool scene here, guys. This is awesome. It looks, this is one of my favorite scenes of the week here. If I can show this to you guys, how awesome this looks. It's one of the best ones here, because it's just awesome to see. The artwork was amazing on this page here. So they're grabbing a couple guys and they're just fighting with them and taking them out as they fall. And one of them, and both Honey Badger and X-23, they kind of fall separate areas, right? So they're talking here. It says, give me the drive. And this guy's like, you get nothing from me, little girl. And she says, I'm not a little girl. And she says, she swipes the drive from this guy. I'll take it. And so they're fighting these people who stole a drive. It's got some kind of information that they want from it. So this guy lands on a car here, and she lands on her feet. Pretty awesome. And she gets on her intercom and asks where Honey Badger is. And she's like, what's going on? Where you at? Where did you land? And she landed about half a block away in a construction area. And these guys are like some weird green creatures with some crazy looking metal armor. Here, Gabby makes this really funny joke here. She kind of calls this guy, he's green, and he looks like an angry pistachio, and he smells like a Band-Aid. So, I don't know what that means, why she says that he smells like a Band-Aid. Kind of funny, but also a little bit weird. But anyway, so they kind of go back. X-23 takes out another guy, because he's hitting up his other guy on his comm, and saying, who's down? Then she takes him out, right? Now we're back over here on the construction site with Gabby, and this guy picks up a mixer truck and throws it at them. So, and then here comes X-23, and she screams for Gabby, and she slides does like a baseball slide between this guy's legs, and slashes at both of his ankles, and he falls to the floor. She's like, now I'm going to need you to stay put, and she takes this guy and she knocks him out, and now they're done right here, right? And she's like, so she's like, hey sis, how are you feeling? She says, I feel like a pretzel, like an actual pretzel, not like eating a pretzel. But she's all, did you get them all? And she's like, she's like, now I kind of want a pretzel. So that was kind of funny. So, and she says, are we gonna go see Hank here? So now we see that they are at the Xavier Institute, and they're talking to Hank McCoy, Beast, right? So Beast has an exchange with X-23, and he's talking about some stuff back and forth about what's going on, and he gives her a file, on a lady who he says, so. Let's see what is her exact title. I have to look at that. She's some kind of geneticist or whatever, and she's gone missing, right? And she was a part of, he says, I came across this in relation to a few investigations of missing scientists connected to the work of genetic regeneration, which you are pursuing. So this lady's missing, and she's connected to the whole X-23 program and things of that nature. So they're done with their meeting, and we see that Gabby here found a pretzel, and she's like, where the heck did you actually find an actual pretzel? And she's like, the kitchen. She said the kitchen conveniently had pretzels. She's like, yeah, you want some? And anyway, she's like, no, I kind of want some real food. And then, so she's like, where are we gonna go? Where are we gonna get it? She said, we need to go. Who's the who? And she said it's a scientist from the facility. And then we see some people here come in, and they're like, hey, how's it going? Long time no see. And it's 3 girls who were cloned from Emma Frost here, and she says the Stepford Cuckoos cloned from the DNA of Emma Frost, whom one of them later tried to murder, and that's the least complicated of the story. Formerly 5 in 1, now 3 in 1. So there used to be 5 of these sisters, right? And now there's only 3 of them, because I guess one of them got killed, or 2 of them got killed, or something like that. It's really weird. So we kind of see an exchange here with X-23 and Honey Badger and these girls, right? And it's kind of a really weird interaction, because these girls are all speaking simultaneously, and they're all like super pale, and anyway, you get this really weird, odd feeling from them, and that's kind of what is portrayed here too, because Honey Badger and X-23 get that same feeling there. And that's what they kind of end up, they kind of end with that. So they're talking about, how it's their birthday, and she's like, oh, Honey Badger's like, oh, you actually know your birthday? I thought you guys were clones, and kind of a thing. And then she's like, do you know your birthday? As she looks over to X-23, she's like, yeah, well, kind of. And they're, so anyway, they are in a diner now. And she's kind of, giving X-23 third degree about her birthday, and X23 is like, it's not such a big deal. It's just a genetic marker, you know what I mean? I know where it is. She's like, well, if you have a birthday, that means I've got a birthday, and I can know when I was, you know, this kind of a thing. So now we see that they're at home, and they're kind of getting ready for the night, and we see a little bit of a background behind what these 5 sisters were. So one of them died in a cerebral accident, and another one got killed by a pair of metal earrings. I don't know, there's something more there. So they're talking about, you know, what Hank gave her in this file, and they're talking about this lady, this geneticist, and how they're going to find her, right? So now we are back with the sisters, and they're lighting a candle, and they're kind of going back and forth a little bit. Oh, what do we need candles for? We got lights. And they're like, you know, we need this candle for the cake or whatever. And you see that these sisters are the ones who are behind the missing scientist. They have the missing scientist, and I guess these sisters have a telepathic power like Emma Frost, right? So they are manipulating this geneticist to do what they want, and ultimately they want them to clone some more sisters, because they got here the 2 dead sisters here, and they almost look like zombies to me, decaying zombies, and they're alive. The other 2 sisters are alive, and they're kind of going back and forth talking with one another, and it looks like one of these zombie sisters is more dominant than the rest of them, because this one seems like she's taking control of the plan, and she's the one that is manipulating the rest of them, or I don't know what she's doing here, but she seems like she's the one with the plan here. And she talks to the other sister here, and they're like, you know, I love you, but, you know, my sweet sister Sophie, I had Dr. Marks put together another birthday surprise for you. That's a special treat for your last day on Earth. And she's got a syringe, and then when you kind of zoom in on the syringe, it says Weapon X, or are they kind of think that I'm thinking that that's what they're trying to show us here, because they show us one of the panels from the very first page, and it has a vial with the Weapon X blood, or the Weapon X material inside that changed these people, right? So I'm thinking that that's what they're trying to tell us here, that this is what they have in this syringe, and she's about to give this to the other sister so that she can be the dominant one, so that she can, or she's trying to give it to herself. I don't know. She's trying to kill the other sister, and she's going to use this on herself. It's not very much clear here, because she's hovering over the other sister with this. I don't know what's in that syringe there, but we get this kind of idea that she killed the other one, and she's going to use something on herself so that she can be strong and be and come back to life. And that's the last page here, and we're going to see what happens next, because we see it says where it gives us the next little preview of what the next issue is. You see X23 fighting 3 of the sisters. So this is what I think we're going to see here in the next one. I did enjoy this one. The pacing was awesome. The artwork was great. And I'm intrigued about what these zombie sisters are going to do here in the next issue. So as for a rating, I'm going to give this one an 8.5. It was awesome. I can give it a 9, but that's getting a little too close to a 10. And I don't give 10s because I don't think any human being on Earth is perfect. So nobody gets a 10, and if I give somebody a 9, you're coming way too close to a 10. So, but you know, this probably is the most close one to a 9, or that I can come to is 8 to an 8.5. This is an awesome issue. Pick this one up, put this in your collection, and continue reading this one, because they're gonna do some pretty good stuff. Hopefully. They got me on board on this one, so let's check this one out. This is going to be my X23 review, and guess what, guys? That's the last book of this week. So I hope you guys enjoyed this week's books. I'm glad you guys here are listening, and I appreciate it. That's going to be the show. Alright, guys, this is going to be my show for the week. I appreciate it. Thanks for coming and tuning in. I'm not going to be doing a comic book pop culture news section. I think I'm going to probably use that for the new Patreon site that I've got. You guys want to go over to Patreon /MCDC podcast. That's where I'm at now. I'm going to have all kinds of original content there. I've got a show there with my wife called the Elizabeth and Joey Show, where we talk about all kinds of crazy stuff. Anything from parenting to what my crazy annoying habits are that week that my wife hates about me, and anything under the sun there. I'm probably going to have a couple of different shows with my kids, probably a show with my son. I was kind of toying with a title, because he's a really big, huge Pokemon fan, and his name is Ezekiel, and we call him Zeke. So I was thinking the Zikachu and Dadly Puff. So maybe that's a really cool title for that one. And we'll just talk about cartoons and stuff like that. Anything that we like of that nature. And then I was going to have another show with my 15-year-old daughter, and maybe she'll be on board, maybe not. She is a teenager, guys, so maybe she'll back out of this one. But I was going to call that one... oh, here she is, guys. She heard me talking about her, and she kind of popped in. I'm talking about how me and you are probably going to have a show together, and I forgot what the show I was going to call. I think I was going to call it Bugging Out with Dad and Jordan or something like that.
That's dumb.
See, so that's the teenager, guys. She's already saying that it's dumb, but I'm going to see if I can get her on and have a show with me there. Pop over to Patreon. You guys can find these shows there. Right now I've got a really cool teaser with my wife and I on there. And we're actually planning a really cool one here. We're watching a really cool documentary, and we're going to be talking about it. We're going to have some commentary on it. We're probably going to throw a little some excerpts in there from the doc, and we're going to talk about it, and we're going to delve deep into it. We've got another really cool concept of a couple different shows, so hopefully you guys will like that, and you guys can tune in and check that out. So hopefully this will be fun and exciting, and hopefully everybody will kind of check that out and help us out and with the content, and just have a little fun. Hopefully my 15-year-old daughter will enjoy this time with me. I don't know.
Harry Styles, if you're listening, I love you so much.
You know what? I'm gonna talk to what's his name? Harry Jonas. Harry Jonas, or I don't know. I don't know who that guy is. You know. Anyway, this is gonna be the end of the show, guys. Hope you guys tune into the next episode, and hopefully you guys can pop over to Patreon and check us out there. This is Joey at the MCDC podcast, and we will see you guys next time.